a lot of them under financial burden. Don't do it that way. Pray, wait, be patient, plan, do things slowly. Trust God to provide. Begin saving now for things that will cost a lot later. When Irma and I first got married, we spent the first 6 months of our married life getting me out of financial debt because I had so much credit card debt when I came into the marriage. Irma was very wise. She had a lot of money saved up in a savings account because she was very wise. But I had been foolishly spending a lot of things and buying a lot of things, and I got into credit card debt. So the first 6 months, we used almost my entire paycheck. We lived off of her paycheck. We used my entire paycheck to pay off all the credit card debt. We wanted to get completely out of debt. We were going to buy everything in cash. But you know what we did? We made that agreement. We were going to buy everything in cash. We were going to borrow nothing. We lived in a one-bedroom apartment, and when we first got there, we didn't even have a table and chairs to sit on. We were sitting on the carpet, on the floor. Whenever Irma cooked or we made something for dinner, we would sit down on the carpet, on the floor. We refused to borrow. But what we did was we looked in the paper. We found what it was that we wanted. We waited for the sale. We cut that picture out of what we were wanting. We laid our hands on it. We prayed over it. We asked the Lord to supply supernaturally what we needed. And God always gave us discounts. God always gave us free deliveries. God always gave us the lowest price. We were able to pay it cash. And it took us 2 years to get furniture in our living room. And when we finally moved into a house, we were able to fill out our house, but we didn't borrow. We took our time. We didn't buy anything on credit. We bought everything in cash. Now, I just want to say something here, just a little short testimony of something that happened. Back in those days, we used to use these big VHS video cassettes to like watch a movie or something. And we didn't have one. And whenever we wanted to watch a movie, I would run over to my mom's house. I would disconnect all the wires, bring it over to my house. We'd pop in the cassette. We'd watch the movie. And then I would disconnect everything again and take it back to my mom's house, wire it all back up. And so we wanted to buy a cassette deck. Well, we cut one out that we saw in the newspaper. We laid our hands on it. We began to pray over it. Well, one day I ran over to my mom's house to disconnect all the wires, and one of my brothers was there. And he had been in the Air Force, and he had lived in Korea when he was in the Air Force. And he saw what I was doing. He goes, "What are you doing?" I says, "Well, I'm borrowing my mom's cassette deck here to go watch a movie." And he says, "Oh, do you need a cassette deck?" I said, "Yeah." I said, we're saving money to go buy one." He goes, "Well, when I was in Korea, they sell those things really cheap. I bought 3 of them." And he goes, "I have an extra one in my garage that I'm not even using." And so he went home and brought it to us, and he gave us for free a cassette deck. And at that time, the best cassette decks were the Hitachi cassette decks, and it was a Hitachi cassette deck. It was the exact Hitachi cassette deck we had been praying about. My brother gave it to me for free. He still had 2 more at home that he was using, and he gave me that as a gift. And we didn't have to pay anything. Can you see how God supernaturally provided for us? And we didn't even have to spend money for it because we were praying, we were waiting. And that little small testimony told us, wait on God. Exercise self-control. Pray. Don't be foolish. Don't just go buy things when you see them and just go get things right away. You're going to get into trouble. So we waited for sales. We took our savings and we bought everything in cash. Some people, again, even gave us things we needed without us even asking for them. God provided everything. God is your provider. It's not your work. It's God who's your provider, and He will supply every financial need. If you have need of something, God will provide it. If you need a washer and dryer, God will provide it. You need a refrigerator, God will provide it. You need a bed, God will provide it. You just have to trust Him for it, and He will provide it for you. Don't rely on the credit card. Don't rely on a bank and borrowing from the bank. Rely on the Lord and stay out of debt, which is my next topic. Stay out of credit card debt. 95% of all personal bankruptcy filings are due to excessive credit card debt. Did you hear that statistic? 95% of all people, households, couples who file for personal bankruptcy file it because of excessive credit card debt. The average consumer here in the United States has 14 credit cards. And here in our county, when people get into financial troubles, there are agencies, crediting agencies that can help people financially to get out of debt. The average amount of money that's owed on credit cards before they go seek help is $21,000. That's the average of people who go seek help. That's how much credit card debt that they have. $21,000 worth of credit card debt. Credit cards have some of the highest interest rate of any money that you can borrow. And remember, you're borrowing money from a credit card to pay your bill. And if you don't pay off your credit card every month, you will have to pay them interest on that credit card. And those credit cards have extremely high interest rates. A large number of Christians have out-of-control credit cards. They buy on credit cards. I talked some time ago to a Christian who told me that all of his credit cards were maxed out. He couldn't spend any more on his credit cards because he already had them charged all the way. He had already had them all charged. And so the only thing that was stopping him from buying more things was he had nothing available to borrow. He could not borrow using any more of those credit cards because they were all maxed out. What a terrible bondage that is. There is a better way. And notice I said that was a Christian. That was a Christian believer who couldn't use his credit cards anymore because they were already all maxed out. And he had several Christian credit cards. I recommend that you have one credit card. That's all you need. My wife and I have one credit card, has two separate numbers, but the statement that comes from the credit card company is on one piece of paper. I don't need 5 credit cards. I don't need a gas card. I don't need a store card. I don't need this card. I just have one credit card, and I can use that anywhere. My wife uses her credit card, and it all comes on one piece of paper. I just look at one piece of paper, and I can see what she's bought. I can see what I bought, and I'm not confused with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bills coming to my house. And it is very important that we pay off our credit cards every month. And I want to say to you that if you can't pay it off every month, then you are living above your means. You need to make changes immediately. Don't let money become your master. Another thing is you can take advantage of credit cards. And I don't mind even saying the credit card I have a Capital One credit card. And they give reward points for purchases. And what we've done, because we use the credit card, we get reward points for that. And after a certain amount of time, we can use those reward points to pay off airline tickets, car rentals whenever we've traveled. We get to pay all those off, and we've literally saved thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars using reward points with the credit card. So you see that? The money is not our master. The money is our slave. It's working for us. That credit card is working for us. We're not working for the credit card. So make the credit card. Make that money work for you. Don't work for the credit card. The next thing I want to say If you owe people money, pay them. Pay off debts. Get out of debt and stay out of debt. I cannot stress this to you enough as a young couple right now, wife, husband to be, get out of debt. Stay out of debt. Don't owe people money. Pay off all your debts. I have counseled many Christian couples over the years who owe money to banks, to stores, to friends, to co-workers, to family members, to relatives, to parents. They owe money. And what a heavy burden that is. And when you owe people money and people start calling you to ask for their money, some people stop answering the phone. Many of them have lost relationships with close family members. Some have even quit coming to our church because they foolishly borrowed money from other church members and they have not repaid them. That is not good. Let me read this verse to you in Psalm 37 and verse 21. It says, "The wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous give generously." Did you hear that first part of that verse? Psalm 37, verse 21. Borrowing money and not paying it back is what wicked people, evil people do that. Christians don't do that, but that's what wicked people do, David said here in this psalm. Can I give you a very important piece of advice that you should carry with you in your marriage relationship? Don't lend people money. Did you hear me? Don't lend people money. Don't let them borrow from you. Don't do that. Absolutely don't do that. Don't co-sign. That Proverbs has a whole teaching of that. Don't co-sign for anybody's loan, but don't lend people money. Why? When you do, it binds you to that person, and it will begin to create a lot of stress in your relationship, and especially if it's a Christian. You may think you're helping them out, but what you're really doing is you're putting them in a bind, and you're going to jeopardize your relationship. If you can, give them the money freely as a gift. If you want to give somebody and bless somebody with $200, just give them the money freely. If God puts it on your heart to do that, you need to be wise. Don't get taken advantage of. Bless a friend. Help someone who has a genuine need. But don't just help anyone. Pray and seek the Lord's direction, and don't give anything to strangers. Let me just tell you a story from my personal experience. As a young Christian, I had a best friend of mine. We would go do evangelism together, and he asked me if I would co-sign for him on a loan. I didn't want to do that. The Bible says not to do that. But I loaned him some money so he could put a down payment on a car. And again, while we were there, here's what he told me. He says, "I'm going to pay it back to you. Charlie, I'll pay it back to you." He says, "I'm going to pay back every cent." That's what he said. "I'm going to pay back every cent." He said that. He stressed that. "I'll pay every cent back to you." Guess what? He never paid me back. In fact, when I brought up the whole issue about the money, he would say, "I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay you back." But he never did. After a while, he stopped answering the phone. Each time I would call him, he wouldn't answer the phone anymore. In fact, after a while, he changed his phone number, and I never heard from him again. That was over 30 years ago, and I still haven't heard from him. And he went off with all of my money, which was the Lord's money. But I want to tell you, I not only lost all my money, I lost a Christian friend. So don't get into these entanglements. Don't accept pressure from friends or from family. Don't let them put guilt trips on you. Don't let them condemn you. They may say you're not being generous, but don't do it. Don't entangle yourself and lose friends. And never allow any relationship with another Christian to be based on money. I want to say right now, even before you get married, do you owe a family member some money? Pay it back. Do you owe a friend $500? Then make plans right now to pay it back. Don't wait. Just do it. If you have to pay $100 every week for the next 5 weeks, and you need to do it and remove that burden off of your mind. To accomplish something like that, paying back, you're going to have to tighten your financial belt and refrain from spending for other must-have items. Now, that's very important. Your reputation and your integrity on the line. You told people you were going to pay them back, so you need to pay them back. So don't let your reputation be ruined because you still owe people money. I remember a Christian man, who started a business, and he got into a lot of debt. And I mean a lot of debt. I'm talking tens of thousands of dollars. He began to pray to the Lord. He asked our church to pray for him. We prayed for him. And guess what? Through an inheritance, through his in-laws, the Lord gave him a large amount of money, plenty of money to pay off the creditors that he owed in his business. You know what he did? When he got that inheritance, he took his kids to Disneyland for a whole week, stayed in a very expensive hotel. He bought himself some new clothes, new furniture, went and got a car. And guess what? He did not pay one penny to all those creditors. You know what? That money that he got as an inheritance, that wasn't his money. That money belonged to the creditors, and he needed to pay them back, and he never did. And guess what? Because he did that, and he did it in an unrighteous way, that man went bankrupt, and he ended up leaving town in his bankruptcy. And that is not good. That is a bad Christian witness. So, even if it hurts, you and your family have to do without for a while. Pay back money that you owe. Never leave a debt remaining or outstanding. Paul said that in Romans chapter 13. Don't leave any debt remaining or outstanding. Pay what you owe. Okay, we're moving here towards an end. I want to talk about wisdom on buying a vehicle, a truck or a car or some other type of vehicle that you need. One of the most essential things in the American life is owning a car, owning a vehicle. And yet, it is one of the worst financial investments you will probably ever make. Why do I say that? Because every year, especially a newer car, if you go out and buy a new car, every year that car depreciates in value by $1,000, $1,500 a year. So just think about it. In 5 years, your car can depreciate in value by $7,500, $8,000, thousands and thousands of dollars. Your car is depreciating in value. When you end up buying a new car, 10 years later you sell it, you're not getting hardly any money back from what you put into it. So it depreciates in value every year. And guess what? You constantly have to pay insurance for it. You got to put gas and oil. You got to wash it. You got to repair it. You got to buy new tires. You got to put a car alarm and a stereo. You got to put spare parts. Isn't that amazing about cars? That you're always putting money out for it every week, every month, every year. And as you're putting money into the car, it's losing value. So you need to have wisdom. You might think that I'm against buying cars by what you've just heard me say, but that's not true. I own 4 cars. My wife has a car, and I have a car, and my 2 adult children each have a car, and they're all registered in my name. I'm just saying that you need wisdom. You need to seek the Lord for guidance when you go out and buy a car. And I'm going to talk here in just a minute about buying cars. First of all, we need to stay on top of maintenance of the vehicle, because some people don't maintain their vehicle, and consequently something burns out on the engine, something doesn't work out with the tires, and you end up losing a lot of money. So one of the things you should do is change your oil regularly. I know that sounds simple, but it is simple, but it has very profound effects for your car, because the oil is the lifeblood of your car, and you need to change your oil regularly. Balance and rotate your tires, because that's being used all the time. I get my cars checked regularly by a reliable mechanic, and he changes the oil every 5,000 miles or so. When we were buying one of the cars that we own right now, they had a brand new one. At the time we bought it, they had a brand new one for $22,000. And guess what? Right there in the same lot, they had a car that was 1 year old. Same car that we were going to buy, but it was 1 year older. You know how much it was? It was $12,000. And it didn't even have a lot of mileage on it. And I began to wonder, is there something wrong with it? But no, they gave us the fax report. There was nothing wrong with it. It was a good car. And to this day, we've owned it now for almost, I want to say we've owned it for 11 or 12 years. And that car has been the best car we've ever owned. It's had hardly no maintenance problems. We change the oil regularly on it, and it's great. I was preparing a sermon years ago on handling money in the home. And as I was preparing that sermon, I went and bought a car. I didn't literally buy a car. I went and bought a car online. I went and pretended like I was going to go buy a car so that I could teach the people something about handling money in the home. So I picked a particular car. I picked a Toyota Avalon. And I went and I looked online. I looked on the computer, on the internet, and I looked for a brand new Toyota Avalon. And guess what? I found several of them. They had almost around the same price, but it was $39,999, almost $40,000. And by the time you paid taxes and dealer prep and transportation costs, it was $42,000 out the door for a brand new Toyota Avalon. Well, guess what I did? I looked for another Toyota Avalon that was 1 year old. I looked for a certified Toyota Avalon, and I found one that had 7,500 miles. It had the same color inside and outside of the one that was brand new. And I saw that it was available in San Jose, California, which is about 3 hours from here. And if I went over there, I could buy it. You know how much that car was? It was $19,000. Almost $20,000 less than a brand new car. Can I tell you, that's a lot of savings. It was a certified car. It had low miles. But can you see, that whole depreciation, I don't know why it got so low, but it got low. Don't ignore these types of purchases during your marriage. It can save you a lot of money, and you can still buy something in good condition with warranties. All right, wisdom on home purchases. Let's talk about that. One of the most important decisions that you will have to make is to buy a house. And of course, almost always, it's a great investment. First of all, you're going to need a reality check. I always recommend buying a home that you can call your own, but you must be aware that there are many expenses. There's going to be property taxes. There's going to be trash, water, and sewage expenses. There's going to be insurance needs, constant repairs, everyday upkeep. You're going to have to invest a lot of money in your home year by year. So it's going to cost you a lot. First of all, when you go buy a home, you should spend no more than 40% of your salary. So if you make $5,000 per month, then don't take a mortgage that's more than $2,000 per month. Okay, so if it's $5,000 is what you make, don't get a mortgage that's going to cost you more than $2,000 per month. Don't take any mortgage more than 40% of your salary. Does everybody understand what an amortization schedule is? Because that's what the banks use to loan you money to buy a house. For example, if you buy a house for $300,000 at 4.2% interest over 30 years, your mortgage is going to be $1,467. That's not too bad. But when you're done paying that 30-year mortgage off, the bank is going to have earned $228,000 off of you for borrowing that money. And it's going to take you a long time to pay it off. we recommend you take out 15-year mortgages if you're going to take a mortgage. The interest rates are always cheaper, and you're going to save a lot of money in the long run. And just because you go through a 30-year mortgage to a 15-year mortgage doesn't mean the mortgage doubles. It goes up a little bit, but not too much. So if you can get the 15-year mortgage, you'll pay off the house sooner. It'll be at a lower interest rate if you qualify, and it allows you to spend a lot less money. Tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest will be saved if you do it that way. And if you can't afford it or you don't qualify for a 15-year mortgage, then get the 30-year mortgage and pay an extra $200, $300 to your monthly payment so that your principal goes down. You'll save tens of thousands of dollars. At least here in America, your homes almost always increase in value, unlike cars. Let's talk briefly about health insurance, life insurance, retirement income, and savings for college. Now, I'm not an expert in these areas. There are many excellent resources available through books, seminars, and reputable companies. But I want to give you some practical advice. My wife and I have always worked for employers that provide full dental, vision, health insurance benefits. That has been a huge blessing. You should do the same when you're seeking employment. To live without adequate health insurance in today's crazy world is extremely perilous. Everything from a baby delivery to even an outpatient surgery can cost tens of thousands of dollars. And I want to say to you that you should invest in the stock market. There's been some very famous crashes over the years in the stock market, but always in the long run, you will earn a lot of money. Think about it here for a moment regarding retirement. In general, people spend the first 30 or so years getting educated, the next 30 years working, and then the last 30 years, if they live that long, they're retired. So your time of retirement is about 1/3 of your entire life. So don't ignore it. My wife retired while she was still young, and she makes more now than when she was working. We invested heavily in the stock market for about a 25-year period. I remember a Christian lady here in our church who had to still keep working long hours at odd jobs, and she had recently turned 80 years of age. 80 years old, and she was still working odd jobs. Why? Because she had no retirement savings. Don't make that mistake. You young couples right now listening to me, start investing early right now in your retirement. If your place of business offers a 401k, offers some type of retirement thing, go ahead. Begin investing in it. Invest in the stock market. And don't make any early withdrawals from retirement accounts because there's usually large penalties if you withdraw early. Life insurance. Some people don't believe in life insurance. Our church pays me for a life insurance policy, which is a blessing to me. The premiums are very low, and usually most life insurances have premiums that are very low. And if you get a $50,000, $100,000 life insurance policy on you, you can leave your family with a good amount of money that will be a huge blessing to them. Another thing is college education. As you guys know, having a college degree is a ticket to financial success all over the world, not just in this country, but everywhere else. So save money for your kids to go to good schools. Save money, invest in money. Even when your children are younger, begin investing in money so they can go to college. Our daughter, we began investing even when she was a young girl. She was in elementary school. We started saving money. In high school, we were saving money so she could go to college. She ended up getting a bachelor's degree and 2 master's degrees, and now she's a teacher that teaches in a high school and at a university, and she is set financially because she has a good job. Why? Because she got a good education. So you need to be saving money even now. Even as young married people, set up an account to get for your children that the Lord's going to give you. Set an account. Put the money away. Let it build interest. Let the money work for you. Don't work for the money. Let the money work for you. And put your kids and give them a good education, a college education, so they will have a ticket as much as possible to financial success. The last area I want to talk about is giving to the Lord. Everything you have comes from God and His grace. My wife and I, we don't have a lot of gifts in our life, giftings in our life, but there's two that we do have. One is to teach, and the other is to give. We love to teach. My wife was a teacher. I'm a teacher, and we also love to give. We can't wait to get paid so that we can give and be a blessing to the ministry, to the church, to missionaries, to different needs that come known to us. This may sound strange to a lot of people, but we have made giving to the Lord the cornerstone of our financial planning and strategy. Giving to the Lord has never been a burden. In fact, it has been one of life's greatest joys. Week by week and month by month, we can't wait to get paid because it allows us to give. And I want to say to you, we have never been able to outgive the Lord. Never. He's always giving us more than we have ever asked or ever needed. We've done a lot of teaching in this area, and you can go to our website, Teacher of the Bible, to see the resources there that we deal with regarding finances and giving to the Lord. But one of the things we want to do is give our tithes. If you earn $1,000, you give $100. That's a tithe. That's 10%. We give to the Lord first before we pay any bill. And I find that tithing blesses every area of your finances. It blesses your relationship. It blesses your kids. It blesses your home. It blesses your cars. It protects you in every way. So be a tither because it blesses your marriage. Also, we believe in giving offerings. You can give to a missionary. You can give to a widow. You can help ministries that are helping orphans. Whatever ministries have a need, an offering is anything above the tithe. Give generously. Give joyfully. Give out of love. Don't give out of pressure, and don't give out of guilt. Another is giving of alms. That's giving to the poor. Proverbs 28, verse 27 says that if you give to the poor, you will never lack. Isn't that amazing? If you give to the poor, you will never lack, ever. Psalm 41, verse 1 says that if you give to the poor, the Lord will deliver you in the time of trouble. Proverbs 19:17 reads that if you help the poor, you're actually lending to the Lord, and He will repay you. Galatians 2:10 exhorts us to always remember the poor. My wife and I have always set aside a portion of our salaries to help the poor. We find reputable ministries that are feeding them, clothing them, and caring for poor people because that is near and dear to Father God's heart, and it should be near and dear to the heart of Christians. We are moved, and Christians should be moved by people, especially children who go to bed hungry. We should not have that around us, especially as Christian believers. Finally, we should bless your father and your mother. One of the most important parts of our budget was we always blessed our mothers, because our fathers passed away when we were younger, but our mothers were alive, and we always blessed them financially. We always gave to them, because the fifth commandment, to honor your father and mother, was the only commandment with a promise, and it said when you bless and honor your father and your mother, two blessings will come to you. It will go well with you, and you'll live long on the earth. So it's powerful to be a blessing to your parents, to give them money even if they don't need it. Just bless them anyway. Just be a blessing to them. It'll go well with you, and you'll live a long time on the earth. The that's going to conclude our teaching here on finances. I know we covered a lot of material here tonight, and there's a lot more we could say about finances, but you can look for those resources from Crown Financial Ministries and also from Financial Peace University. In our next teaching, we're going to talk about raising children for Christ. And because there's a lot of instruction in that teaching, we're going to make it into 2 parts. I've split it up into 2 different parts. So raising children for Christ will be our next teaching, and I hope you will join me for that. God bless you, and thank you for listening to this teaching on money. Amen.